You can build trust over years and lose it in seconds. And when it breaks, it doesn't just affect the moment, it changes how you see everything after. I want to tell you the story of how I lost trust in my dog, but I want to tell you how he was before that as well. Welcome to Overcome with Travis White. This episode's going to be a little bit different. This is my first time doing a solo episode since the very beginning, so you all need to just bear with me because I may struggle through this a little bit. I'm used to having somebody else on the other end. Well, enough explaining. Let's start from the very beginning. As most of you know, I suffer from bad anxiety and depression. And I was at a point in my life where I was finally able to hold down a job and things were going a little bit smoother. I was getting to the point where I was getting out of my rut. Uh, However, I was still living with my fiance and her mom because I was still having some seizures and my emotional state was, I just couldn't handle being alone a lot of the time. But life was somewhat moving forward. So this August day in 2016, we went to a parade. You know, every city kind of has their festival days or whatever. That's what was going on where we were at. There was this rescue shelter that was walking in the parade with a bunch of puppies. And I remember seeing one cute dog that was being held because he was too tired to walk. And I made a comment about that dog right then. I can't remember exactly what I said. I said probably something along the lines of like, oh, look at how cute that puppy is. The parade ended. We went down to the park and visited the rescue shelter booth that was selling these dogs. And half joking, I turned around to my fiance and said, we should get a dog. And I didn't think anything of it. I just sat there and played with him for a minute, but that day he was so tired and uninterested, but he was super cute, but you could tell that he had had a long day. So my fiance ended up calling her mom and asking if we could bring a dog into her house. And she ended up saying, yes, I think that'd be good for the both of you. And that's how we got Simba. And little did I know that time, he would end up being one of the best things that happened to me. For the first time in a while, I'd be focusing on something other than myself. He would bring a companionship that I really needed to help me push through the challenges that were going on in my life. But when we first got him, he had this weird resource guarding issue. It was like this weird bit of aggression where he would be out walking around and smell something that he wanted, and you take him away and he'd turn around and snap at you, get a little aggressive. So we decided that we needed to take him to some puppy training classes. So we started doing that on Saturday mornings. And I remember the first day that we were in this class, afterwards, we were speaking to the dog trainer and we said, our puppy has some issues. We think has a little bit of aggression. It's more of a resource guarding issue, but we need to learn how to get rid of this because we don't want it. So he's like, oh, this little guy, like he's so super nice and sweet. I don't see an ounce of aggression. And right then, as the trainer was petting our puppy, he turned around and started biting him and getting actually really mean. So the guy had him down him in this kind of submissive hold that we learned how to do. And he told us that yeah, the aggression is there, and this is what you do, and it's going to be hard for you to do because it's it takes a toll emotionally, but you have to do it in order to allow this dog to learn that he can't behave like that. And so from that point on, we started hand feeding him all the time, started training him daily, like probably 2 or 3 times a day. And when he started doing this aggression thing where he would be resource guarding, we would have to basically make him submissive. And we eventually got through all that. And I would dare say that we got it out of him. But by this time, this dog had basically helped me overcome the majority of my anxiety. And I'm not saying that it fully went away because that would be a complete lie, but he helped me create a sense of purpose that I didn't have before. It was a responsibility during this time in my life that I needed because he was dependent upon me, but I was also very dependent upon him. He was always a constant that I could come home to. And I think he also just that constant companionship that he provided was fantastic. But I was reading these, so I've been, looking at different ways and thinking about how he has impacted my life. Did you know that 84% of pet owners say that their pet has a positive impact on their mental health? It's a high percentage. Growing up, I wouldn't think that because I didn't know that much about dogs. I mean, we had one, but I wasn't as close with those dogs as I am with my own. However, that did change. And this is the main story that I want to get into because it doesn't take long for all that trust to go away. So, eventually I got married. We had a daughter, and that Simba loved and still loves my daughter to this day. But he loved her as a baby, absolutely adored her. I remember bringing her home, and we were introducing her to him, the baby to the dog, and we have him kind of walk up and smell her car seat a little bit, and then we bring her in the car seat and kind of just get them used to him used to the baby. And from that time on, he was hooked. He would follow her around the house wherever she was. He was right next to her. He would lay on the bed next to her, like not a mean like bone in sight. Like he was very gentle. He listened really well. But this is where you kind of learn your lesson being a dog parent. And I understand that everybody trains their dog and um you know differently than I do, and their boundaries are different. So anyways, on this particular night, my daughter was 13 months old, and Simba usually slept at the bottom of our feet. We had a little bed for him on the floor in our room, but eventually every night he'd jump up on the bed and sleep at the bottom of our feet, and we basically just let him because he wasn't hurting anything. But this night he was acting a little bit strange, a little bit off. So I was like, well, maybe we need to, put him somewhere else. And I honestly think we had a crate set up at the time, but I don't think he was trained well enough to go in it. And he didn't like to be away from us. And So I had tried to put him in the crate, and he just kept whining and whining. I was like, okay, well, I don't know if this is going to work tonight because we were trying to get our sleep. So I ended up moving his bed out to like a little landing loft area that we have upstairs by our bedroom, and he was getting very anxious. And this is where, if I knew back then what I knew now, he would have just ended up not suffering, but like shoved in his crate for the night, and would have to self-soothe himself to get over his anxieties. But we ended up taking him in the room. He fell asleep on the floor, and my daughter was hard to put to bed that night. She kept getting up and walking around. So about 5 a.m., I remember she got up to walk around the bed, and I remember my dog being asleep on the other side of the room. And I turned to my wife. I was like, "Where's Ellie? What was that? Where is she? I can't see her. It's dark." And I heard this slight growl, just like, "Urgh," and then I heard like a sound of like a snap. I was like, and that to me was the oh shit moment. Something just happened, and it did not sound good. I got up, turned on the light. My dog had, I think, got off his bed and went across the room, and I could see my daughter's cheek had blood coming out of it, and he got her pretty good on the cheek and the face. Luckily, he missed her eye and her jawbone, so he didn't do the only permanent damage she has is a scar, but now she doesn't think anything of it. But I cannot tell you the amount of guilt that I felt for the longest time and still have to work through. And my daughter is 6 years old now, and it's been rough over the years to actually not blame myself, because I feel like I could have stopped it. I remember talking about this in some therapy sessions, and I've just had to push past it. But the crazy thing is my daughter does not look at the dog any differently. She was so young, she doesn't remember it. And if this were to be a full-on aggression attack, that would have been different, but he got scared, and I realized that. But my daughter absolutely still adores him. And when she'll get asked about her face now, she says, yeah, my dog bit me, but he wasn't being mean. It was an accident. But to make matters like that day, even, it was a little bit harder than that, because in the state of Utah, and I think this is most states too, if a dog bites a person, they have to be quarantined. In the state of Utah, it's for 10 days. In most cities, you can quarantine your dog at home. But in the city that we live in, the dog has to uh, go to like a shelter or something for the 10 days so they can watch out for him. They're looking for signs of aggression and rabies and stuff. So I remember the animal patrol, before we even made it to the doctor to get my daughter stitched up, had called me and said, I'm on my way to get your dog. And I said, well, right now you're wasting your time, because she did get bit and we are taking her to the doctors. So we'll be back probably around this time. I can't remember what time I said, but he actually ended up coming to our house and called again and said, well, where are you? And I said, we're still at the doctor's. He was wondering, kind of a douchebag officer. He was wondering what took us so long. It's because like he broke through a lot of layers of skin, so she had to have stitches underneath and on top of each other. Luckily, he did not go through the cheek. And we did call the ambulance to make sure that he didn't hit anything that was going to have to make them rush her to the hospital. But anyways, back to the jerk cop. So he showed up at our house. He was here by the time we got home. And he's like, well, I'm here to get your dog. You can just give me his leash and I'll take him from here. And I said, no, my wife's going to be involved in this too. Because that's how we work as a couple. We make decisions together. And we still didn't know our full rights as owners of the dog. So we were calling places to make sure that he really had to go somewhere to be quarantined, but we didn't trust how the officer would actually treat him. Because although he did this and the guilt was on me, I still loved my dog. I just had a hard time seeing him like at the time, and I didn't want to deal with him. So we were trying to figure out our rights. Well, the officer was threatening to give us citations for impeding on his investigation. He had to call his supervisor over, so he came over, and they're like, well, if you don't let us take him, then you're going to get a ticket. It's going to be Class C misdemeanor or whatever for this. You'll be arrested. You're like, we never said that you can't take him. We want to know if we can keep him in the house. Like, no, that's not the law. So we ended up calling a couple places. They said, no, where you're at, it's different in that area. But you do have the option to take him to a different place, and you'd have to take him and just send off paperwork to the police station to make sure that you did it. So the officer, we said, well, we're going to take him somewhere else because we don't want you to handle him. Because this time we'd spent tons of money, tons of time. He's a well-trained dog, but he didn't always work well with other people. Because I don't know if you know that, but like most dogs only listen to certain people and won't listen to others. So we didn't want him like yanking him up and pulling on his leash and all this stuff. So we ended up taking him. Everything was fine. Had to have him quarantined for the 10 days. Came back and we realized, you know what, if this is the case, he can't do this again. I've already don't trust him because of this. And I could tell from the moment that he got home that bond that I had with him previously was gone. I couldn't look at him the same. I felt guilty. I didn't want to really be around him, which I wish it didn't get this way. It took me years to even build that trust back up. And I would say that it's pretty close to where it was, but it will never be the same. But we ended up getting a lot of questions like, well, why didn't you put your dog down? I would have killed that son of a bitch right there. And I was like, well, he wasn't mean. He's not a mean dog. This was an accident. But if it was your dog, you have every right to do that. But let me take care of my own. So instead of taking him and giving him away, putting him down, we ended up paying some money to send him to a dog training camp for 20 days. Because we knew that they would have the time and the ability to train him and be a well-behaved dog. And after that, the key that we found, and I think this should go for every dog owner, is you need to set boundaries with your dogs and kids. Like, in my opinion, and I'm no dog trainer, I'm no professional, young kids and dogs should never be left alone without adult supervision, because that's when accidents can happen. Never again will my dog be up on a bed with my baby. Never again will my toddler walk around my dog's bed without me being right next to him. It's just the key is setting those boundaries. And I know there are some dog trainers out there that will fully agree with this. So we've set those boundaries and we've been good, but it took probably until my third kid was born for me to really be able to start trusting him around kids more. So now we'll let him outside with them and kind of roam around and them kind of interact with each other a little bit more. But he still doesn't have my full trust with like my youngest. And he probably never will. He gets a little bit weird when he can't predict what our kids are going to do. So like a 2-year-old around him, like kind of stumbling and he doesn't know quite understand what their next move is. He gets a little bit weird. So we have to remove him from that situation. Not only do you set boundaries, but you need to learn your dog's body language. If your kids are out and about and playing and the dog's out there and something happens and your dog's ears go back and tail is tucked between their legs, that's a sign right there that you need to remove your dog from that situation immediately in order to prohibit something bad from happening. You need to learn your dog's body language. So in order to do that, you need to spend the time with your dog that is needed to figure that out. But the big word that I want to point out today is trust. As all of you know, I have been working hard I've mentioned this in a few episodes with some of my guests. I've been working hard on my framework, the faith framework, and T stands for trust. And this is how you can trust is a big part of how you can overcome obstacles and challenges in life. You need to you need to trust yourself. And your decisions, your instincts. And at times you need to trust others. And you need to trust the progress that can come from trusting yourself and trusting your others. Because what happens when we actually learn to trust is it creates a safety net. And now that I'm back to trusting my dog, it's reducing my anxiety once again. He calms me down because I don't believe he's a threat anymore. And if your trust breaks in one area of life, whether it's, with somebody else, work, at home, the whole other pieces of the faith framework can crumble around you. Because trust is what allows you to feel safe enough to live, connect, and grow. And I'm just thankful that I've been able to build back up this relationship with my dog and trust him again. Because I feel like it has helped me uh, be able to connect all the faith framework together and keep a good attitude. But my dog is also part of the foundation of my life. He's a he's one of the things that really motivates me to keep going and do better as a person. But all that set aside, my dog has really eased my anxiety over the years. And I know I felt all the guilt in the world crawl up on me when he did what he did. But it's just another challenge that I had to overcome. And I know that whatever you're facing, if you can look up, look within yourself and trust yourself once again, it will do wonders for you. So today, I want to challenge you to think about the areas in your life where you're lacking trust, whether it's with yourself or someone else, a job or whatever, and write them down on a piece of paper and start thinking about ways that you can change this. What is it? Is it something that you've done? Is it something that somebody else has done? Like, what is preventing that trust? And that is all that I have for today's episode. You will definitely hear a few more solo episodes from me. I'm trying to make it so you guys, my audience, can get a better understanding of who I am and my background because I have some stories and I want to share them. And I want to continue to have people come on the show as well to tell theirs because that's what this platform is. This is a place for you to share your stories, your mental health stories, and how you've been broken and how you were able to get back up on your feet. So thank you all for listening. Hit that like button. And if you're listening on any platform, please leave us a review because that goes a long ways. And if you know that this will somebody who needs to hear this, please share it. Thanks again. Until next time.